Good morning, Chair, board members, staff, and members of the public. A few housekeeping rules in order to minimize background interference and also as a courtesy to your colleagues, please silent all of your cell phones and other electronic devices and mute all microphone speakers on computer, iPad, etc. unless you're speaking. I'm also gonna enlist the assistance of the co-host to do just that, to silence anyone that's emanating background noise that's not speaking. Okay, because this is a virtual meeting, we'll have a roll call. Please say yes or present. Chair Russ. Chair? Oh, I see the chair. I think he's still having audio issues. He's present. Member Adams?
Here.
Member Gavin?
Here.
Member Gawol?
Present, good morning.
Member Gonzalez?
Here.
Member Young?
Present.
Chief Operating Officer Vito?
Present.
Thank you. Chair, let's see. I'll continue. Chair, there are no members of the public who registered as required in order to provide comments. As such, we may proceed with the regular calendar. The first order of business of which is to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, April 28, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Member Gonzalez.
Gonzalez.
Seconded by?
Second, Member Young.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
None opposed. Thank you very much. We will now proceed to the reports item on the agenda. And I'm going to ask the chair to provide any comments or remarks that he wishes to present.
I'm going to be brief, but thank you. And I just wanted to let the board members know, we sent around copies yesterday. We have 2 active bills in Albany, one in the Senate and one in the Assembly on the establishment of the Preservation Trust and the creation of the trust as Nycha's partner for preserving our public housing units. Both of the bills were introduced last week by Senator Kavanaugh in the Senate and Assemblymember Simbowitz in the Assembly. We have been working with various groups and supporters. There is a press release out that the senator and the assembly member issued that we can share it with you so you can see the announcement. If there's any board member that's interested in calling anyone and offering support, we would encourage that. You don't have to do that. You can give us a call if there's a question you have. We can share the legislation if you're actually interested in reading the legislative drafts as well. But this is a product of well over a year's worth of engagement, starting last July, even before that actually, and now we've been continuing to engage residents, stakeholders, and others. This bill, these 2 bills reflect approximately 25 different changes ranging all the major changes plus editorial from input from residents. We have reviewed it with the CCOP. They have not endorsed the bill, but they did give us a lot of feedback, legal aid, residents on the town hall meetings, and others. So these bills are revised from the one that was introduced last year, and we're very pleased and wanted to thank the senator and the assembly member and all the contributors to getting us this far for discussion. The last thing I'll say is that we may be at a moment, we have the first time a true engagement in DC with trying to understand the capital issues. We have a delegation that's been very supportive of trying to get us additional capital funding. We have locally the ideas around the trust. And we're hoping that in some turn here in the future, one or both of these things, they're not mutually exclusive, will yield results for us in terms of capital. So we're very hopeful and encouraged by the legislation and also encouraged by the work in Washington. And I just wanted to pass that on to the board. I didn't know if any of the board members had a question or comment on the bill, but we could do a brief thing now if you wanted, or take a look at it and then give me a call or work through Vilma and we can get time to go over it with you.
Greg?
Yeah, Joe.
I believe that we're going to get favorable response on what's moving forward. I just have a question going forward. Anything that's given to us, and the next step would be, I guess, a planning to take place of what's going to be done or in some sort of priority. Will it be possible to bring people in on that initial, like I stated before, the first cup of coffee, or the public if possible, so later on, when it's proposed openly, there's not too much, pushback, and maybe, I don't know, an 800 number where people can start commenting on the funds or what should be done with it initially. Or I'm just saying, soon as the envelope comes, not later down the line when the plans are drawn up, people are unsure and a lot of rumors and things trip over each other. So I'm just asking, would that be possible?
Well, we have started that on the transformation plan because we've created the, actually we'll get a briefing on this too next month as part of the June briefing. But so we have the resident roundtable and we have residents involved in all the working groups. So in terms of the reorganizational structure and that kind of thing, that is happening. They're at the start. For example, when we do the pilot for the alternative work schedule, the AWS, the residents will be there at the inception. So the other thing we've done is we talked to the CCOP, and we're going to provide them probably next week with a comprehensive set of documents on the physical needs of the Housing Authority, because we wanted to, if we get funding, whether we get it through the blueprint or Washington or wherever, we're not going to get funding enough to say, oh, we're just ready to do all the properties at once. So we're going to have to put some kind of schedule together. So we asked them to think about, and this is something we can come back to the board with too, what order should we take properties in? What criteria should we use to evaluate that? Obviously, physical needs, work orders, those kind of things, but there could be others. So we started that conversation. And, to be honest, residents have been, what we proposed last year was never any kind of final plan. We've had really good town hall discussions. I've had some resident meetings with some of the resident leadership where they're taking us line by line through our stuff. And we're going back and forth in those meetings in a really helpful way for us and I hope for them. But before we do anything, we're going to have a different tack, I think, on any capital money that comes next, because it will involve making decisions about what properties would go to the front of the queue, what properties would, and how would you pick them? And that we will do in conjunction with residents and the board and bring ideas forward even before we get the capital money. So.
Two things, Greg. The group, the Upper West Side group that we spoke about, that I spoke to you, well, they finally drafted something and I think they're going to send it forward. And I will certainly move it to the young lady who contacted me regarding that.
Sure.
And that'll be forwarded on to her. Second, real brief, besides the additional funding, what do you think is the biggest obstacle, or what do you see as being the biggest obstacle that is not allowing these things to go through?
So let's talk about Washington, because we have our delegation actively working for these numbers, but we have no idea if any of these numbers are going to be real. They're asking for $80 billion. The president asked for $40 billion. We also have two competing bills. We have two bills in the House, two different, Congresswoman Waters has a bill, Congresswoman Velasquez has a bill. The formulas are different. So the way the money is distributed, these are all things that have to be worked out at the federal level, and we can't see into that and can't predict what that impact might be. We don't know if the president will strike a deal on the infrastructure and what that might include. So the way we see it, we think there's the potential to get some capital money from this process in Washington. We just don't know how much or when. On the trust bill, the trust model it surely raises capital because it allows us for the first time to reasonably borrow. But the other thing that the trust model does, because we're using that voucher, the funding for the property is totally different. In other words, there's just a lot more money in subsidy that comes to the same apartment just by making the switch. So that really helps us a long term on the operating side. But the things that are in front of us for the trust does require the legislation to pass. The Senate bill had, I think, 12 co-sponsors, not so much in the Assembly. And we have folks who have legitimate concerns about a second entity. There's many folks concerned that somehow the trust is going to privatize Nycha. And of course, it's a public agency, it's a public body. So that's a big concern. And honestly, Victor, I think people are they're fearful. I think we've come through this time together where we've been all, and I mean, if you're a poor person in the United States, you're fearful anyway, for a variety of reasons. And then, I mean, there's just no way around that. What am I going to lose today? Is something going to happen? Is this, there's no margin. So I think a lot of folks are looking at the trust and just concerned that somehow they're going to lose their unit. I think we've heard, even when we're talking about saying, hey, we want to make a temporary relocation while construction's going on. When I do the town halls, folks are saying, how am I going to know if I'm going to get back? What are you going to show me? How are we going to, and those are legitimate questions. So, I think that we have spent a lot of time. We've now met with every active tenant association. We've met with a couple thousand people through the town halls. We've met in the borough level as well. Resident engagement staff and other support have been just tremendous helping to do that. But I just think people are afraid. And we have spent a lot of time making this tight. You can't, the debt is reasonable. The property cannot be converted to something else, even if, it's locked in to the income groups we're serving now and for the purpose that it's intended. So but I'm hopeful that we might get some pickup on the bills, especially in the Assembly. But I think that's the stumbling block, not knowing what's going to happen federally and whether it's going to be enough or how long or whatever. And then locally, this concern that somehow the trust could lead to the loss of my unit. I think that's,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. One last thing is, speaking of additional funding, I don't know if it's fact or fiction or whether it's in collaboration with Nycha Velasquez's bill, but Congressman Nadler has been talking about some monies that he wants to afford the housing authority. I'm not quite sure the dollar amount, but and I'm not quite sure whether he's just in collaboration with someone else that's introduced the bill. But is there any substance to that claim?
Well, I think I only know of two bills in the House, so he may be supporting Congresswoman Velasquez's bill.
Okay, all right.
Congresswoman Waters has introduced her bill. They're very similar in most respects, but except for the distribution formula. So
Okay.
I think Congressman Nadler is probably referring to our own delegation and Congresswoman Velasquez's bill.
Okay, thank you very much.
And those are other, you know what? I'm sorry, Victor, there's one other possibility. There's also a Green New Deal bill that wants to focus on the energy part of public housing, which could also yield something. So that's out there as well.
Are you referring to the Carolyn Maloney?
No, this is I think AOC's bill, along with Bernie Sanders, who introduced in the Senate. It's a Green New Deal, and there's
Okay.
a public housing related bill to make our not just for Nycha, but the whole country, obviously,
I see.
to do energy and green work, and there could be grants or loans that come through that. But again, this is which would be great because we want to, we'd like to electrify our buildings as much as possible and get rid of some of these mechanical systems.
For sure.
Yeah, or simplify the way we provide heat and hot water, that kind of thing. So, but that's out there as well.
Okay. All right. I was just
Yeah,
we could have, in order to save time today, I mean, I could have a conversation with you about the
sure. Please.
the solar panels
Yeah, yeah.
that he's introducing, but we'll do that another day in just to get the meeting going.
Okay,
But thank you.
sure thing.
Member Gavin, you have your hand raised?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. I just wanted to say congratulations on the amazing progress and support. I was wondering if we have gone back to the Partnership for New York and ABNY recently to their boards to ensure that they know that the legislation is now introduced.
Paul, I'm not sure. We could check and let you know.
Yeah, I just think.
We've been contacting a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm just not, we may have, so we can let you know.
Yeah, it's not, no need to let me, I just think the timing is good. Their focus is starting to get more normalized and they can be very supportive in Albany.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, Joe?
Member Adams?
Okay, so great. And anything where progress is made, there are things that are lost. So with the things going on with the units and things like that, where people are scared. But honestly, if people on their own behalf, it's not like Nycha and the new management is come in with dispossesses and evictions and a hit list. But I understand that y'all have tried to express, but that message that the residents have to, on their own behalf, have certain things they must be responsible for and to get started on those issues. If not, they will not come back to those units. Okay, that is proven, and it has nothing to do with Nycha trying to put people out. It has nothing to do with any secret society trying to evict people. What it is that the tenants just don't seem to get the hardcore message that they must address their occupancy. They must address the pre-existing rent issues. And as you stated to me, there was one management company that came in and just gave everybody a free pass to start from zero. But that's not.
That was in RAD, right? That was one of the RAD.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. But everybody's not going to get that lottery ticket. So I know that other members have expressed to me, and you and numerous people, that at these meetings, but it's not. You have to form a certain language to let people know, hey, we have these great things, but we must need you to do these things, and just be honest. And and it's going to be hard to try to tell people this, but you could be in jeopardy of losing your place because of these reasons. And it has nothing to do with the agency. It's just the basic fundamental, do and don't and get it done. That's it. Everything is not going to come up, with roses and lilies. People might lose their residence for the reasons I just stated.
Well, Joe, in this model, we're not rescreening anybody. It's a little different from the RAD model. So we're not doing another screening, and we are trying to how should I put it? We would be trying to make sure that occupancy issues can be corrected also if we get the construction, because we'll have a chance to move folks around. So I don't, our goal was to make this pretty seamless for folks and deal with some of the lease enforcement or behavioral issues that you're talking about.
Exactly.
We wanted to deal with through the reorganization, the resident roundtable, and we've had some very good discussions with the CCOP as well on this issue. So I think there's a path there, not part of the capital issue, because we want to keep every one of those families if there's not some circumstance we can't see at the moment. But because they're not going to get rescreened, they're just going to be out of the unit temporarily while we do construction and come back. And it's not quite the same as when we do RAD. The model's a little different. So we're hopeful that we can get to some of these issues through work with the residents on, because there's other things too in terms of behavioral issues and what do we do about those on the lease enforcement side. But this blueprint program would not rescreen families, and we don't want to put anybody at risk. So we've been very careful to make that clear.
Yeah, I know
that doesn't mean we won't deal with it, but we're not going to deal with it this way.
Well, I believe that y'all have been trying to deal with it fairly, in all honesty. But no matter how many times you go into a room, people are not going to listen to the message on that radio station. They're going to walk away with a different perspective, the same fear. But in all fairness to the agency, they must be, I don't know how else to express it, they must be told, because it's proven, not in this exception, this is an exception, what you're proposing now. I'm talking about overall moving forward. It is proven that people have not been able to come over. In this, and because they have not been able to resolve their issues. And yeah, I know you've told them, you give them booklets, but and that's the way it is. I'm just making a point that that message has to be conveyed a different way. I don't know how else.
No, for the RAD sites, it is being conveyed. Jonathan, if you could, because these programs are not about displacement.
I understand.
But we've taken a lot of that feedback. Jonathan's on the call from real estate. And Jonathan, just give a sense of how these transitions are working now, because we're making it clear to folks during that transition period what has to be addressed.
Thank you. Good morning. Board Member Adams, yes, we've raised these issues before, and we think they're great, the great feedback that you've provided, and we've incorporated this into our more current projects, and we're going to continue to do this going forward. And so we are now much more explicit very early on in the engagement and all the way through the process from developer selection and up to the closing. And we explain that, yes, there's a lot of benefits from going through RAD. And then there's also a number of steps that residents need to take to ensure that they, that they can reap the benefits of being in a PACT project. So that is absolutely now baked into our newer engagement processes. Always looking for feedback to see if we can continue to improve it. But I can assure you that, you raised this issue a little while ago, and we took it seriously, and it is now part of our standard operating procedure.
Okay, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I said the agency has been doing their part. I don't know. I don't want to beat this to death, but the numbers that have resulted at Bay Plaza and other ones show that people did not come back for various reasons. And it's just there. And I don't know what else to say. I'm not sure. I mean, I would convey it a little bit more harsher or something like that myself to people to let them know, because I'm one of these people. And I understand what it would take for me to go from step A to step B. And it's not the agency's fault. I'm not saying you're not explaining it. It just has to be, retooled, or I have really no response. So, because I have never attended any of these meetings.
Well, we could set something up, because we haven't lost, the numbers are not unreasonable given that we've converted over 9,500 units, and we have a small fraction, tiny fraction. Some of those for reasons that are out of our control. For example, somebody refused to sign a lease, or they were in the unit illegally and left.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but that number of folks, based on how many units we've converted, is very tiny. And what I would propose is we'll get a presentation for some of the board on the transition stuff that Jonathan, we've retooled the whole process in the past 2 years.
Okay, well.
So we can show, and then we can give you some of the information about some of the other, because what you just described, I've heard it quite a bit in doing the town halls, that there's a belief that when we did these conversions, hundreds of people did not get units. That's just not true. There's a small number of people,
I think it was like 30 or so at Bay Plaza, and the other one, Batanzas. But the thing is, when people start screaming to the legislators, especially in an election year, now everything you should know is like the Joker said, chaos.
Yeah, or it's a bigger number. But let's. I'd like to kind of show off a little bit what the real estate team has done with the resident engagement piece and the structure and the transition. So we'll work something out.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And I just like, this is Paula Gavin pipe in, that one of our resolutions this month talks to that very effort. So we'll be approving that momentarily.
That's right. That's the tenant.
The planning.
Planning fund.
Assistance. Yeah, the resident technical assistance. Yes. Thanks, Paula.
Okay, thank you, Chair. We will now proceed to the calendared items 1 through 19. Again, unless you're presenting, I should see a red crossed out microphone in your panel. Thank you so much for your cooperation. And we'll move right along. Patty Bayros, item 1.
Everyone, my name is Patty Bayros, and I'm the CIO at the New York City Housing Authority. Thanks very much for your time today, and I'll be presenting item number 1 for your consideration, which is a request to rescind a prior board resolution. This request is for approval to rescind a formerly approved resolution which authorized the authority to enter into an agreement with Guidehouse LLP to provide training services to Nycha staff on the use of our Siebel system. The authority was working to migrate its rent collection system and tenant data system from the legacy AS400 platform into our existing Siebel application. Once migrated, Guidehouse was selected to provide training services to our staff on the new components of the Siebel system. Prior to completing the migration of the AS400 systems into the Siebel system, IT, along with our program partners across Nycha, made the decision to halt the AS400 migration efforts to consider whether Siebel is the best platform to support public housing program management in the longer term. While we consider our strategic technology approach going forward and the migration efforts are halted, there's no need to engage Guidehouse for training on our Siebel system. The agreement with Guidehouse was never executed and no payments were made to Guidehouse for this work. Thank you.
Patty?
Yes.
Hi, good morning. Patty, I know this sounds like it's going to be great. I'm sure it is. I'm still wondering, because I was did my rent the other day, and I did it by the phone. And I actually found myself talking to the automated system, saying, hello, thank you. And, and it said, what's your name? And I said, Joseph Adams. And bing, 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 and everything. And I said, oh my goodness. So I'm trying to just see what we're getting since we're changing horses. What are we getting? You know, don't have to go into a lot of technical terms because what we're using seems to be just fine. I get my confirmation number, the monies haven't been lost, and why people have now. I'm just curious. I'm just saying, you know, I'm going to miss the old system, but you know, that's just me.
Thanks for your question, Board Member Adams. It probably makes sense maybe in an offline, another forum to go through as we move forward into this path. But for some, you know, basic suggestions are, basic considerations are cost savings. So it's easier to maintain. We are looking at kind of what's called a SaaS platform, which is a software as a service platform. And it's basically a cloud system that is more of a housing case management system. So it has some features that are more specific to housing platforms. Our Siebel system is not necessarily a housing specific system. So there are some real advantages in terms of speed to make updates to the new system. There would be other kinds of advantages in terms of how they work with HUD, regulations, how it's hosted. So I could certainly give you a more comprehensive discussion about what the considerations are. And certainly the system will be as good or better, we hope, as well as less expensive to maintain. And hopefully we will be able to do things more expeditiously. But it certainly isn't because the system today cannot do what we need it to do, and in many cases does it extremely well. It's just, you know, looking at other technology opportunities and where we could improve upon our services and reduce costs. So there's a whole analysis that we've been working on, and I'm happy to talk you through some of the highlights.
Okay, when you have the forum, I'd like to sit in because when you say the term saving money, I get nervous because when you save money, something goes away. And I'm too old to send smoke signals or use string and cup. I just can't do that. I did it in grade school, it didn't work. But I'm just making a joke. But I'm saying though, if you say when you say the term saving money as opposed to adequate services, I started to get a little nervous. That's all. And the service, as you just confirmed, has been quite adequate. So saving money, okay. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good, thank you. There are some good explanations for it that can demonstrate without reducing services or quality, how there might be an opportunity to use economies of scale because it's a system that supports housing authorities across the country. But we can certainly talk offline and I can explain, you know, our approach going forward.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If no further questions, thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
Moving to item 2, Heather Beck.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for reviewing our resolution this morning. My name is Heather Beck, and I'm a senior policy analyst for the portfolio planning team within the real estate department. And today I'm presenting to you board resolution number 2 for your review. We are asking for your approval to enter into a 5-year agreement with Public Works Partners, our selected program administrator for the new Resident Planning Fund program. First, I want to give you some background on the new Resident Planning Fund program before giving you details on the program administrator role and why we've selected Public Works Partners. So based on feedback from Nycha's Resident Advisory Board and several community stakeholders, Nycha's real estate team has created this new resident planning fund to provide residents with technical support they desire during the PACT conversion process. The goal of this new program is to ensure that residents can meaningfully plan for the future of their communities with the support of independent professionals. We heard from Nycha's Resident Advisory Board that technical assistance should be made available to all residents participating in the PACT program, but that technical assistance should be flexible enough to meet the unique needs of that community. And we agree. In developing a model for this new Resident Planning Fund program, it was also recommended that we appoint a third-party program administrator to oversee the creation and rollout of this program. It was recommended that that program administrator be the one to work directly with residents and the tenant association to understand the opportunities and needs for technical assistance at that development. By having a third-party program administrator, Nycha residents can be sure that they are receiving program-neutral information and neutral recommendations for technical assistance providers. Residents at each PACT project will have the opportunity to work directly with Public Works partners as the program administrator early on in the PACT planning process to identify opportunities to use their funds. This program is voluntary, and if a tenant association board does not wish to use the funds, they will not be required to do so. The technical support provided at each development will be tailored to the needs of that community, but we envision services such as TAs hiring a consulting firm to conduct research and policy analysis, working with a local community group to conduct outreach and to provide education about the PACT program. This would be in addition to Nycha's education and outreach, financial and legal consultation about the PACT program, or working directly with an architecture, planning, and urban design firm to generate ideas about the scope of work. Groups could also hire a tenant organizing and advocacy group if they so wished. Another example, if a TA would like to host a community event about PACT to help distribute information and engage residents in a less formal setting than a large resident meeting or town hall, they could hire a local community-based organization to support them in that effort. Now I'd like to give some details on the role of the program administrator and the Public Works Partners proposal. The Real Estate Department, along with our RFP review committee, has identified Public Works Partners and their partners, LISC NYC, Public Policy Lab, and Pratt Center for Community Development to work directly with residents to assess their needs and priorities, connect residents with qualified organizations and technical assistance providers, and to oversee all contracting with vendors and subcontractors. The program admin team has experience in developing new citywide programs with other city agencies, along with assisting with the rollout and implementation of these new programs. Public Works Partners comes highly recommended from other city agencies who have utilized them in this role in the past. A key piece of the Public Works Partners proposal was the creation of a citywide advisory group, which will consist of several different stakeholders, but will be led by Nycha residents to provide input on the initial program design and feedback on the rollout and utilization of the program in the long term. Public Works Partners put forward a detailed plan for how they would engage residents at each PAC site, how they would develop educational materials about the program, and how they would identify different technical assistance providers. Their team also plans to hire around 70 residents over the life of the contract with a commitment of 3,500 hours through their Section 3 hiring plan. Part of this plan is to hire at least one resident from every PAC site to provide insight and help with outreach efforts. Their Section 3 hiring plan reflects a commitment to providing longer-term capacity building employment that will provide residents with the skill development opportunities and substantial work experience with their different teams. So I have additional information about that RFP review process and the budget, but at this time I can take your questions and share additional information.
This program, I know that we've been talking with a lot of the resident leadership, and they're talking about tenant-run developments, and being that they could utilize this money, can they also on their own utilize this money to train themselves until they could actually meet the requirements in order to have a tenant-based run development?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Yes, absolutely. So one of the other examples is the TA board could decide that they want to work with a group to receive training for their own capacity building purposes. And so this would, there are a lot of conversations that we want to have directly with residents to see, what they're excited for and what they would like to do at their development, but that is definitely a potential use of the funds.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There are no other questions. Thank you, Heather.
Mm-hmm.
Item 3, Ian Lundy. Ian?
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Fantastic. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ian Lundy, and I'm a director in the Real Estate Development Department. Today, I will be presenting Board Resolution number 3 for your consideration. My colleagues and I are requesting authorization to sell Nycha's seller note in the Triboro portfolio. To start, I will provide some background on the original Triboro transaction that resulted in Nycha being a lender and holding the seller note we are proposing to sell here today. Then, I will provide more information on the transaction for which we are requesting authorization in this board resolution. The Triboro portfolio consists of 6 Section 8 properties with a total of 875 units in the Bronx, Manhattan, and Brooklyn. Please refer to Exhibit A in the briefing memo for a listing of the 6 properties included in the portfolio. In 2014, Nycha conveyed this portfolio to a joint venture comprised of Nycha and private development and property management partners, subject to ongoing affordability requirements, in order to access additional public and private resources so that we could bring comprehensive repairs to the sites. The joint venture is called Triboro Preservation LLC, and both Nycha and L&M Development Partners Incorporated, an affordable housing developer, are members. Please note that this transaction was in 2014, and as such, it preceded Nycha's PACT initiative. So, it is not a PACT project and does not have the same structure as the PACT projects that we have brought to the board. In the 2014 Triboro transaction, in addition to being part of the joint venture that owns the property, Nycha also provided a loan to the joint venture owner entity, which is commonly referred to in the real estate field as a seller note. Nycha often provides financing in this way so that our partners can maximize the funding available to use on critical repairs needed at the project site. Now, I will transition to provide more detail on the proposed transaction that we are bringing to the board today. L&M, the same company that is one of the parties in the ownership structure of the Triboro portfolio, has presented Nycha with an offer to purchase Nycha's seller note. The only change to the ownership structure implied by this transfer is that Nycha would no longer be a lender. The transaction does not involve any changes to the ownership or management of the Triboro portfolio. Nycha would still be part of the ownership structure, and it is important to note and emphasize that the residents of the Triboro portfolio will not be affected by this proposed transaction at all. As part of the proposed transaction, L&M will purchase Nycha's seller note for approximately $56 million, which is the amount equal to the unpaid balance on the seller note, including both principal and interest. At the closing of this transaction, L&M would then become the lender of this loan and be entitled to future payments of principal and interest. At closing of this transaction, Nycha will receive the one-time payment of $56 million. This would go towards addressing Nycha's projected capital needs of over $40 billion to fully rehabilitate the Nycha portfolio. A more specific use of the funds has not yet been identified. However, we will come back to the board for authorization when a use has been identified. Accordingly, to facilitate the proposed transaction, we are requesting authorization to 1. Enter into a purchase and sale agreement for the sale of the seller note to L&M or an affiliate thereof, and 2. Enter into an assignment of the seller note and mortgage to L&M or an affiliate thereof. Upon receiving board approval, Nycha is prepared to close the transaction on or about June of 2021. Thank you so much for your time, and please let us know if you have any questions.
Yes, Adams, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I have a two-part question. So we're selling something to get money to do something favorably. That would be correct? But
That's correct. Yes, we're selling
okay.
the seller note.
Uh-huh.
And so right now, the seller note is something that will be repaid over the course of 15 to 20 years, depending on the availability of capital. With this transaction, we'll be able to raise the full 56 million today. So it's preferable for us to have that money today so that we can invest in repairs now.
Oh, okay. So I believe my second question is, when you said repairs, that would probably be most of the day-to-day operations, hopefully. And when money comes in like this, will it be reflected in the upcoming financial reports, or is it required to be so? Like we see when things come in and where it goes, and how will that be included as something that we obtain in the piggy bank to make things better? I'm just asking.
So I haven't been directly involved with reporting out Nycha's financials to the board. However, this funding would go into the Nycha general accounts. So to the extent that those are what's reported to you, this should be reflected.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Joe, it's Greg. Yeah, this would be, we have our public housing operating reserve, we have our income reserves for things like this. So this would be reflected in the statements.
So we've done this.
You'll see it.
We've done this before, though, right?
Yeah, we have. We have got, not quite this large. This is one of our bigger transactions, but we have gotten various, this is not exactly fee income, but we've gotten income from these properties before, and we're very careful with that. Some of that has certain restrictions on it as part of the deal, but we have that both in terms of our ability to sustain our reserves in a good business manner, but also putting money to work either in the operations or capital side of this. So
no, I understand you have a good plan for it. I just never ever remember seeing it in any of those beautiful charts and graphs when we had the financial aspects of our meeting. I never saw that this money came, that it was mentioned, how the charts show up, what capital, what grants or whatever we had. And I never saw that icon of sold properties or whatever the case may be included in what we get. I'm not, accusing the agency of anything. I'm just
no, I understand. But we track it separately because it's a different kind of income for us. So at some point when we do the financial revisions, we can show you that.
Well, it would be helpful just to see it. I'm just saying, I've never seen it up until now. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay.
With the only question that I have is, I just want a phrase that I saw within the resolution given to me in layman's terms, and that phrase is enter into. I'm assuming it's pronounced allonge. ALLONGE.
Yes, Board Member Gonzalez, this is Marissa Schaefer. I can answer that. Allonge is a legal term that is just when you assign a note, which is what evidence is a loan. That's just the legal term that is used to evidence the assignment.
Okay, thank you. I learned something new.
So let's allonge along.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
We'll move to items 4 through 7. Razul.
Good morning. My name is Rasul Azanijad. I'm the Vice President of Healthy Home. Item 4 and 5, seeking authorization to ratify award of 2 requirement contract between Authority and Empire Controlled Abatement Incorporated for lead-based paint abatement in occupied apartment. These are 2-year requirement contract with 1-year renewal option to be exercised as authority's sole discretion. This contract, again, is for lead-based paint abatement based on our XRF Corona XRF testing, and it could also be used for any lead poisoning cases, which is issued by Department of Health. The contract is, one of the contract is covered in Brooklyn and the other one is covered in Bronx. The contract amount on in Brooklyn is $5.4 million, and the contract for Bronx is $4.7 million. The Empire Control has done work in the past for us, past 6 years, over $36 million. Empire Control is a woman-owned business enterprise. The budget funding is operating and is federal. Under Section 3, they mentioned they will hire 2 on each contract, 2 lead handlers. And the VNC on this vendor was checked on January 26, 2021, and there is no issue to award this contract. The reason we're going for ratification is we have obligation under action plan to abate 2,724 unit with child under 6 within next year. And also this abatement has to start as of May of 2021. So that's why we're going for ratification of these 2 contracts. Any question?
All I have is a statement, Razul, and it's more of a thank you. When we were dealing with the issue, well, we were still Nycha. You educated me on how the process works and what terminology to use. And I actually used that terminology when the private management company came in to do the lead-based paint abatement. Mm-hmm. And not only did they do the abatement, but then they came back and retested to make sure. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Razul?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. I'd like to put the statement and then the question that the your explanation of the process has been spot on. My question was with the request I made in this particular vendor, Empire Control Abatement, which was for an updated license with the raised seal under the name of the license, which I don't believe was there properly. And their liability insurance had the provisos in there stating that if payments were made against the policy, it would decrease the amount of the insurance. If you can pull up the document so you can, because I can't pull up both at the same time, but it did not have those. This company did not have it, their sealing and their license, their liability, not their compensation. Their liability insurance was not up to the standards of having to pay out a claim.
Well, when it comes to insurance, I'll let procurement talk about it because Sergio is on.
Hi, Razul. Hi. Sergio Paneke, Chief Procurement Officer for Nycha. Board Member Adams, as far as the insurance policy is concerned, the guidelines that we received from risk management as it relates to the requirements for insurance, including the per occurrence as well as the total policy provisions, are meeting those minimum requirements.
Okay, so my question is that, like I stated to you when we first talked, is that I never was given a full definition of things like this. So I'm seeing a policy that states that it says, this example, $10,000, but if there's been claims against it and something happens, the amount of that policy will not be in full effect. Also, they need a license, concurrent, clear, and concise, so I can at least see that it's up to date. And with the state seal, the seal, the seal of like a marriage certificate, birth certificate, that is not there. So if there's some sort of mandate or bylaw saying that it's okay to do what you did.
Member Adams, as you know,
You
New
have
York
reached the
State.
Breckle School. If you know your party's extension, you may enter it at any time. For all weather-related matters, please call our hotline at 845-414-1026.
What is that?
Someone's phone.
Yeah.
Host, can you,
I will
host,
investigate.
can you mute that person, please? They're muted. Thank you.
Yeah.
Proceed.
Member
So-
Adam, as you know, New York State does not have licensing for lead-based paint abatement. So the license for contractor and their workers is issued by EPA. And EPA website, you could check each license to make sure they're updated. And we do check on their license, and they wouldn't award a contractor which require to have a lead-based paint abatement license, firm license, without checking their license to make sure that is updated and is accurate.
And I did believe, all due respect to you, I think I did see that.
Right.
It's just unfortunate that I can't pull it up to confirm what you're saying, but I believe I did see that.
Right.
You know, it'd be helpful if I could see this on the screen like some of the other items, but okay. Thank you very much.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Proceed.
I move to item number 6 and 7. Again, seeking authorization to ratify the award of 2 requirement contract between Authority and New York Environmental System Incorporated for lead-based paint abatement in occupied apartment. These are 2-year requirement contract with 1-year renewal option to be exercised at Authority's sole discretion. Again, these contracts is for abatement of lead-based paint based on our XRF testing result, and also could be used for any DOH violation for lead poison cases. The contract covers, one of the contract covers Manhattan, and the other contract covers Queens and Staten Island. The Manhattan contract is $5.4 million, and the Queens and Staten contract is $2.8 million. New York Environmental has done work in the past for past 5 years, over $26 million. They're a non-minority owned business enterprise, and the funding is operating and the source is federal. Under Section 3, they mentioned they will hire 3 asbestos handlers for each contract. The vendor name check on this vendor was done on February 12, 2021, and there was no reason not to award the contract. Again, as I mentioned, the ratification is based on that we are obligated to abate at least 2,724 units with child under 6 within next year. And our under action plan, and we are required to start this in May of 2021. Any question?
Ro, on number 6, basically the same question. I don't recall seeing the EPA logo for this one. I don't recall. See, I can't refer it back to right quickly because I can't switch the screen. It seems like no one can bring it up. And also the same insurance disclaimer. I mean, I don't understand why they're going to be doing work in a public facility where things could possibly happen, and they have a liability insurance, but they have this proviso stating that if they've had previous claims, that the policy is not in full effect. That's basically what it's saying. And again, if there's some sort of mandate or something that states that it's not necessary or whatever, I've never read it. I've never been on a meeting where that was explained to me. So that information was not provided for this resolution.
Joe,
yeah.
Just to be clear, we're not bringing something to the board that has a insurance problem. So what I would propose is let's have a session where we can explain what the insurance requirements are and what policies are acceptable and what are not. Because in the process of selecting the vendor, the ability to have coverage that comports with what Nycha requires is part of this process. So we have to understand what you're reading in context of the entire policy and what they're obligated to do. And I'm not an insurance expert either. And I think we have folks who are, and we can explain why these policies are acceptable. So we can do that, not just for you, but for any other board members if I have a question. But this is not a, we would not advance a procurement to the point where we're asking for board approval if we hadn't vetted these kinds of things or dealt with them in the past and have policies that are going to support the work as opposed to giving us problems. So you've had the insurance question a couple of times. So let's talk to the insurance people and do background on it so we can all get it.
Okay, with all due respect, the first item that he stated, it had one of the requests that I made given, which I believe that I did see, and I think I made a note of it. But any contractor doing any type of work in a public facility, especially where people are, have to have a certain liability insurance. Now, I've sat here for a long time. I've had plenty of opportunities to have this stuff explained to me. Meetings were canceled. There was no effort. Now, going forward, if you want to make something, but today I gave to present the benefit of the doubt on one of these because I miscalculated. But basic fundamental insurance has to be in place and updated to do work in any facility.
It is.
All right.
These are not policies that are somehow compromising us, and we can explain that, and we can have the insurance people explain it. So let's do that so that you can rest easy with it.
Well, going forward, I will rest easy with it. I gave them the gentleman the benefit of the doubt on one of these, and I'm saying we sat here over 2 years and has not, before I think just before you arrived, I was not ever explained.
Well, we can,
and all due respect to you, Greg, the process I just don't have a lot of faith in. I'm sorry. I mean, I've sat here for a long time and heard the same thing. So I just move forward. I have no more questions about this item. I just don't.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If no further questions, thank you, Razul.
Thank you.
And we'll move to items 8 through 15. Joe?
Hi. Yes. Good morning. This is Joe Cortine, one of the VPs in operations. I'll be presenting items 8 through 15 today. And beginning with item 8 is authorization requesting to enter into an agreement with W.W. Granger Incorporated for the purchase and delivery of machinery supplies. It's a 1 year and 4 month contract. The agreement provides for, on an as-needed basis, only during the period of the agreement, the specified machinery supplies such as V-belts, vacuums, sump pumps, ladders, floor stripping pads, hand trucks, blowers, grinders, and circular saw blades, etc. This is a citywide, for citywide development, and the Long Island City Warehouse in the amount of $1,147,890.30.
Question, Joe?
Yes, sir.
I got back the information regarding Granger, and I also sent something out to y'all. We had over maybe 100 and some complaints about services provided by this this vendor. And again, it was sent to me, their performance, but every day indicated had some red in it. There's not been one aspect where the agency has not had problems with some of the deliveries. And I remember a statement about this vendor a while back was said that, well, it was just some little thing, but the littlest thing can cause major inconveniences when the residents are trying to get services or window fixed, or maintenance comes up and he needs something to go back downstairs, it's not there. And unless you actually lived in public housing and have to maneuver around this and live with this, it's a major, major inconvenience. So this particular vendor also, I requested a a reference letter from another agency that they have done work with besides Nycha. I did not see that. I see there was a conversation or something with someone, but a personal reference letter from that agency or entity stating their performance with them, because this has been a problematic with this, from my opinion, with them with the deliveries and service.
Board Member Adams, just in response to that, given the timeframes, and we thought that the city of LA and the county of LA would be, I think a good reference for obvious reasons, and that's why we sent you the communications in the email. I apologize that it wasn't in a more formal form, but again, it is indicative of the type of performance that they do provide to a like size entity like ours. As far as the quality of the work and whatnot, what we provided you is specific to Nycha. And as you can see in the reporting, their on-time performance is excellent. There was a dip during COVID for the month of February, but they're well in excess now of 90% on time. And that is, they're an excellent partner for the agency, sir.
Okay, well, everybody has their opinion. But
yes, sir. I understand.
But I specifically requested a written item, okay, with all due respect to you. And there's a difference of your opinion about them being a excellent performer, because I'm familiar with this particular vendor coming here with the same baggage and the same issues. And we had a previous meeting. I requested it. Madam Secretary told you when to provide it, and it still had the same inconsistent numbers of delivery. So saying it's a perfect provided, your numbers do not state that. And I did request a particular item, and I have no more questions about this. I just want to keep the meeting moving. I don't want to hold it up.
Thank you, Board Member.
I do want to add, I have dealt with Granger at 2 of the other housing authorities where I've worked and have not had issues with them in terms of the service they provided to those other cities. So I just, for what it's worth from personal experience, I've had no supply issues of any consequence with Granger at other housing authorities where I've worked. So just to pass it on.
Joe, proceed, please.
Okay. Items 9 through 12 are seeking authorization to award requirement contracts to Richards Plumbing and Heating Incorporated. Item 9 is for the inspection and testing of fire, standpipe, and sprinkler systems as required by the New York City Administrative Code and rules of the City of New York. And this is for various Brooklyn developments in the amount of $2,537,122.52. And I'm sorry, and it allows for 1 projected Section 3 hiring. Sorry, go ahead.
So on 9, I had made the request for the current license update and liability insurance. They did not provide the one with the raised seal, I believe. And the liability insurance also has the same proviso, and they will be doing work in public facilities, and that's key. So that was, the information was sent, and it really wasn't clear at all also. So that information is in my opinion, is not adequate, unless you can bring it up and we revisit it, but because I can't pull it up and talk to you at the same time. I mean, I'm trying to support, what we're going forward with this, but maybe something that could have slipped through. If you can pull it up and flash it on the screen right quick, if it's allowed. If not, we can move along. I'm having no more questions about number 9.
Yeah, I can't do that from here. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
My Zoom skills are limited.
Mine's even worse. Go ahead.
Board member, what information did you not receive?
The requested license and liability insurance, but the license with the raised seal.
Okay.
I didn't receive that.
You received the licenses. It may not have come forward with the raised seal to you. It may not have been clear enough. But in terms of the insurance, what is the issue? We did provide the letter from the vendor as you requested.
Okay, well, that I didn't make a note of that. That's why I'm saying I can't really refer to, but
you did receive it, and we can
well,
send it to you again.
Well, the license is still an issue, though. Okay, and I'm getting a lot of kickback about this insurance, but these people have to come do work here, and things can happen. So, but I'll take that into consideration. But there was no raised seal with the which is needed, because when inspections are done to this site, they're required to have this. They are, not the person that's doing the work, the actual name of the company with the raised seal, and that I believe that was not provided. You can check on your screen if I'm wrong, but I believe that was not provided. And they're asking for a lot of money to be given to them to do this work. They must have an updated license with the raised seal.
Okay, Joe, continue.
Okay. Item number 10 is a similar contract with Richard Plumbing for testing of the inspection and testing of the fire standpipe and sprinkler system. This is for various Bronx developments in the amount of $1,854,996.84 with one projected Section 3 hire. Item number 11, also a contract with Richards Plumbing and Heating for inspection and testing of standpipe and sprinkler system. Various Manhattan developments in the amount of $2,766,882.96 with a projected Section 3 hiring of one. Item number 12 is similar contract with Richards Plumbing and Heating for standpipe sprinkler system testing and inspection. This is for various Queens and Staten Island developments. The amount of $1,030,213.10 with one projected Section 3 hire.
Proceed.
Item 13 is provide background information, seeks authorization to award a requirement contract for the installation of remote elevator management systems for passenger elevators to Alliance Elevator Company, LLC, DBA Unitech Elevator Company. It's a 2-year requirement contract with a 1-year renewal option. It's including but not limited to furnishing all labor, materials, and equipment necessary for the installation of remote elevator management systems for 200 passenger car elevators in the authority developments. This is for various developments in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens, in the amount of $6,995,000 and a projected hiring plan for 5 hires, Section 3.
See?
Items 14 and 15 are seeking to amend requirement contracts and also proposing funding increases for these contracts. The contracts are for boiler welding and repair services, and it's amended for an initial 2-year term with a 1-year renewal option, to amend it to extend the term with for an additional 12 months and approve a funding increase to this requirement contract in order to fund the continued provision of services during the remainder of the 1-year renewal option term and the extended 12-month term, which should continue the contract through June 6th, the contracts through June 6th of 2022. This is for with New York Boiler Incorporated, and it's for the boiler welding and repair services. It's to perform furnishing all labor, supervision materials, scaffolding, and equipment required to perform the boiler repairs and hot water tank repairs. This is in the amount of the first contract, that's 14, is for various Brooklyn developments, in the amount of $1,731,978.77. And the second contract is for various Bronx developments in the amount of $1,228,525.68. And that's it. Excuse me.
Joe,
Yes.
on 14 and 15 with this this vendor, this is the second time around that he sent his information. He sent a license that doesn't have even anything on it except for the background of New York City. Nothing for the company with a raised seal at all. Also, I'm not even going to beat myself to death about their liability insurance because that's the still same provisos. But if you take a look, if you can see it yourself, you look on paper what it is, because this sticks out, immensely. He sent his license as a person doing work, okay, not the company's license with a raised seal stating that it's up to date, okay. And again, this is another vendor that the agency is giving quite a bit of money to and he sent on two occasions the same flawed paperwork, in my opinion. You can look at it yourself. There's no license there at all, just his employee ID with a picture of the Empire State Building and stuff behind it. I think that's what it is. It might have been the Eiffel Tower, I don't know, but it's the same thing. There was no license provided.
Let me see. They had provided a certificate of authorization.
Can you see it?
I'm looking.
We can't decide this during the meeting. So I'm going to have to rely on the procurement process and we'll come back. But if there's something that I'm missing, I'm asking Sergio or someone else to step in, because I don't know if there's a copying problem, you can't see it, but part of the vetting would be to make sure the licenses are in order, that the vendor name check is in order when it's eventually received. And if there's a problem, we don't have to execute. We can come back to the board and say we didn't execute. So we always retain that option.
Greg, when you get a chance, look at the documents, okay? All
no,
right.
I'm not saying it's I'm just saying that
this is the second time that this particular vendor has sent this faulty, information like this. And I'm not even gonna talk about the last time, but on the second item that Joe is trying to point out to you, you can't even make out what that is, much less what it's saying. And it's not.
I'm going to ask Joe. I'll ask procurement to go look at the original file and to advise, and then I will let you know.
And he sent his personal license as an employee doing work, not something for the company. Okay, it didn't even have. What? Okay, let's move along. Let's move along. Let's just move
Sergio,
along.
did you want to say something?
Yes.
Have Sergio step in, and then I'll look at it with myself,
Okay.
and we can talk about it.
We'll get a copy of the image and provide it to the board here in a second. Thank you.
Okay, no further questions. Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Okay,
Okay, moving on to items 16 through 19. Steve, but you will first move the two CPD reports into the record. These reports were previously provided to the board. Steve?
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Good morning. My name is Stephen Lovesey. I'm the EVP of Capital Projects Division, and I will be presenting board items 16 through 19 for your consideration. Prior to that, Capital Projects Division has provided two reports to the board: Capital's monthly spend rate and the Weatherization Assistance Program. These have been made available to the board and will be part of the record. If there are no questions, I'll move on to board briefing item number 16. Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to award the contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Nuval Elevator Industries, for elevator rehabilitation maintenance services at Queensbridge South in the amount of $24,589,700 $763. The first lowest bidder, Continental Elevator Industry, was deemed non-responsive for failure to use the updated cost breakdown as outlined in the authority's bid documents. Nuval has been in operation since 1987 and has an overall very good performance evaluation of a 94.47 rating. A vendor name check requested on March 16, 2021 is still pending. There will be no award until the VNC is issued and vetted by the Vendor Integrity Supply Diversity Department and finds no issue to preclude this award. This contract will provide the rehabilitation, maintenance, and service of 49 elevators at all 13 buildings. There was a negative 10.44 variance, meaning that the award amount was less than our cost estimate, and this vendor is going to be providing 3 Section 3 hires. If there are no questions in regards to board briefing item number 16, I will move on to item number 17.
Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Adams.
Okay, on 16, Steve, this particular item was submitted a little late, and I got back to you this morning, after seeing it, and there's 2 outstanding here. Is that the the license, if you can see it, doesn't have anything indicating that the business has an up-to-date current license. It may, but it's not on the item that was given. Okay, I hate on the insurance is up to date, but in the language, it clearly states that if there is an accident or someone gets hurt, the claim will not be paid. It's stated in the insurance policy. I don't know what type of policy this is called, where you're paying for it to cover liabilities, and it states in the actual policy that anything is damaged or someone gets hurt, the claim will not be paid. It's right there on the right side. I can't remember what page it's right in it, in this incorrect, highlighted with quotation marks. So that is just I don't even know how to else to explain that to you. And I really have, other than that, I have no more questions to you about this one. But I just wanted to say thank you for coming out to the residents and assisting with that. And that's why I made an effort to try to reach you, to try to get something from the company stating they would, or even the agency would cover, to address this. I mean, you can look at the policy when you get a chance, but thanks again for your help, Steve. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Adams, for bringing that.
Does procurement have any response to that comment?
I don't have any.
Okay.
As I said, we can get the liability folks involved because the insurance meets the requirements. If it doesn't, I'll happily retract what I'm saying here today. But we should understand that particular language in the context of the entire policy and what we're on the hook for under that policy, what they're on the hook for. So, and I also believe there are additional insurances not covered specific to the vendor action we're taking that could also provide an umbrella for us. But let's get the insurance people, and then we'll do a briefing for the board on the insurances so that we can understand the language that the board members referencing in the context of what's actually happening in the policy and see that it's okay.
Well, hopefully great that we can have this before the next board meeting, because
no, I intend to have it before.
Yeah,
I'd probably have it in the next week or so. So
if you have the
get
all the information, it clearly states that.
No, I understand what it says there, but I just don't know that I can read a section and say that's the only thing that.
Okay, but I read the whole thing, and I'm not going to tie up the rest of the meeting, but that was the most outstanding, aspect of it that just didn't make any sense relevant to the work being done in a public facility, people going back and forth. But like I said, hopefully before the next board meeting, because I really would like to understand this more clearly, why it's acceptable to have an insurance policy that they're not going to pay any money. And plus, there was no license given in this particular situation.
Board member, and if I may, if there have been no claims that have been denied by any insurance companies today. So just recognize that. We understand your concern and we're going to speak to that. But to date, we have not had any sort of insurance claims denied that we're aware of. Okay.
Well, that you're aware of, and I asked you to have the company explain that in an email to you.
No, I'm saying directly as Nycha state requesting a claim be filed and the insurance company paying that claim. That's what I'm speaking to, not so much the vendor attesting. It's more important that the insurance company obviously protects our interest, but we have nothing to prove that we have had any sort of claims that have been negated by an insurance company as us as the beneficiary of that insurance.
Okay.
Thank you.
More questions?
Anika Lescott, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to directly respond to the question regarding insurance for this organization. So there is evidence that was submitted to us in terms of the vendor's general liability policy. That policy insures the vendor and also names Nycha as an additional insured organization. And in that policy, there's also an endorsement that is attached to the vendor's policy, which covers us even after the work is complete, if there was a claim to be filed. So I just wanted to correct that for the record.
And a response received, but like I stated to Ms. Chairman Russ, going forward, maybe we'll get more into detail about these things. But thank you very much for your response.
Okay. And Anika, did you still want John to speak?
No, I think I covered it. Thank you, Jackie.
Okay, thanks. You're welcome.
Thank you, Anika.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Steve?
Yes, thank you very much.
Madam Secretary, I have a quick question for you. Before I'll wait till the end then. I'll wait till we finish. We're almost finished. I'll wait.
Okay, all right. If it can wait. Thank you.
Yeah.
I believe that covers everything on board briefing item number 16. I'll move on to board item number 17. Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to ratify a change order to the contract with Deleric Construction Company, Inc. for the restoration regarding the Sandy Recovery Program at Wrangell Houses for the amount of $7,776.72. There have been a total of 22 prior change orders for this. This is change order number 23. During the installation of the new feeder cables, Con Edison discovered that the building number 1 shared the same property feeder box as buildings number 2 and 3. This poses a potential problem to the authority if losing of power at one of those buildings loses power to the additional buildings. We are correcting that as part of this contract. Deleric provided backup generators and 3 electricians to the site to identify those cables. This change order was negotiated to $7,776.72. And in order not to delay the project or lose the Con Edison contractors at the site, we continued to commence work. This will change the revised amount to $26,416,504.41 to the overall award amount. And if there are no further questions, I will move on to board item number 18 and 19. So board item number 18 and 19, Capital seeks authorization to amend 5 board resolutions and ratify 2 change orders to the contract with Adams European Contracting, Inc. for the restoration associated to the Sandy Recovery Program at Gowanus Houses. This is in a total amount of those 2 change orders of $19,954.48. There have been 10 previous change orders. Change order number 11, during the installation of a backflow preventer at buildings 1, 2, 5, 9, 11, 12, and 14. It was determined additional concrete cutting, excavating, removing of debris, and installation of plumbing connections were required as part of the installation of the backflow preventer at the building number 8. In addition, when working on these, we identified that the boiler shells had deteriorated. We needed to replace those, as well as additional testing on some spandrel beams. This change order includes a credit for the reinstallation of the boilers, which was no longer needed. This change order was negotiated to $11,397.72. Change order number 12, the Department of Environmental Protection determined that the storm pipe for the manhole at building number 4 interfered with the gas line and required adjustment. Work was to connect the manhole to the existing catch basin and install a new storm pipe and perform additional excavation. Due to this, we negotiated a cost change order of $8,556.76. There are 5 amendments to board resolutions. I won't call out each of these. They are in the briefing here, but in essence, there was 365 days written rather than 366 days written. And so we will be changing that. So it reads July 7th, 2019 through July 6th, 2020 will be reflected as 366 days. So for the amended board resolution, there is no change in the contract in terms of funding. Change order 11 and 12 will revise the total award amount to $47,906,125.97. If there are no questions on board items number 18 and 19, that concludes Capital Projects Division presentations. Thank you.
Member Adams?
Yes.
Did you have? Okay.
I will be.
Okay, Member Adams, did you have any specific questions with respect to 18 and 19?
No, I'm not.
Okay, great. Just give me a second so that I can read into the record that the report, CPD's report on board approved temporary suspensions for CPD's Weatherization Assistance Program, also known as WAP, related contracts and change orders pursuant to Board Resolution 19-925-16 and CPD's spend update for April 2021 are hereby incorporated into and made a part of the record. Chair, Member Adams?
Yes, Madam Secretary, I will be abstaining my vote on the following items, please. 6, 8, 9, 14, 15, and 16. And the question I had was, when you request in the Q&A session that they respond with the responses at 3 p.m. that following Monday or whatever, what would be a reasonable time for you to have to do what it is that you have to do before we can actually get them? Because if I see something that seems to be really something I need to send back an answer to get that person time, I would like to do that. But if they send it the morning or the night before, and I just didn't have, in my case, I didn't have time, to get a question back to y'all. As soon as I saw it this morning, I responded around 7 o'clock, 7:30. I understand, but I did make an attempt to reach out, But what would be a reasonable expectation once you state the deadline to get responses to you, back to you, and then whatever you have to do to get them back to us? Is there any particular time that you after you get them back to expect them the next day or that evening?
Member Adams, I think that would be unreasonable because the information is not at hand when requested, and for certain things that you request, the several departments, procurement, etc., needs to go to the vendor or go to a reference source and request what it is that you're requesting. And unfortunately, the responses by the vendors or the corporation given the reference doesn't happen like in a few hours or a day or even 2 days. I mean, as it is from Thursday when the Q&As end at about 4 p.m. To Monday is already a short time frame. So, we do the best. Procurement does the best as it can. The requests go out right away, but the information is sent to my office immediately upon receipt.
Okay, because I know that, and I've heard and been other board members have stated that they've asked questions that the some of the items that should already be in the initial jacket when they applied for a contract with the agency. So I understand what you're saying, that might be an unreasonable time to expect things, but if these original documents were given to the agency, I don't know if they're in another building or where they might be, but unless I'm asking for a specific response from the vendor in particular, I'm just trying to figure out. But going forward, maybe this will also be explained to me as well. And thank you. That's it.
Okay, you're very welcome. Member Adams, I just want to confirm that you're abstaining from items 6, 8, 9, 14, 15, and 16.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, I just need a moment. Jason? Can you assist with respect?
Yes, Madam Secretary.
Jason, can you assist with respect to which items? Could you confirm with me that items where the award was to, other than the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, is a unanimous vote is required pursuant to the PPM and PHL 151 subsection 1?
Right, that requirement will not apply in this matter because on those items, because the low bidders were or second low bidders were found non-responsive, we do not view them as actual bids. So the awards, in fact, are being made to the lowest responsible bidder. So unanimous votes are not required.
Okay, so for none of these items would I require a unanimous vote? 6, 8,
Correct.
9, 14, 15. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jason.
You're welcome, Chair.
Okay, the Chair, 19 items were presented for board approval, with Member Adams abstaining from items 6, 8, 9, 14, 15, and 16. May I have a motion to approve the 19 items with a notation of Member Adams abstaining from those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items?
Gavin moves.
Thank you, Paula. Second?
Second, Matt.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Thank you. And Chair, being that all matters before the board today have been addressed, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed. The recorded end time is 11:43 a.m. Thank you all. The next Nycha board meeting, a non-voting meeting, is scheduled for Wednesday, June 16, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. Everyone stay safe.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. You also.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Enjoy the holiday